Hey guys, welcome back to Musings of Maverick. I'm Maverick, and today we're going to be looking at That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Episode 1. So, some big disclaimers first. Why am I getting into this series right now when it's almost halfway through? Well, to be honest, I've heard of this series before at the very start when it was just getting an adaptation. But the reason I heard of it was because of light novels. Now, personally, I like to read a lot of fantasy setting light novels, and especially the isekai ones, which, for those of you who don't know, is where it's basically a reincarnation story. You're reincarnated in another world other than your own, typically the modern world, where we are right now. So there's a lot of these kinds of stories, a lot of good ones too. So this one, the slime one, was actually something that I passed over. And initially, I didn't really think much of it when it got an anime adaptation because, to be honest, there's lots of good ones, and there's the reincarnation genre as a whole has even evolved into, even some meta series, like meta as in the characters themselves know that they're in a reincarnation and they try to bend the game or bend the rules by knowing they are reincarnations. Uh, through their own knowledge of by reading of reincarnation novels and anime, manga, whatnot. So it's a very deep genre already, which is why I didn't really think much when I saw this series at first. Now, the reason I changed my mind is actually because it seems that this is going to be a series that is very focused on world building. Now, this is something that I really like very much. I mentioned this briefly during the Goblin Slayer reactions, where, I love fantasy RPG settings, and I'm always interested to see on how they decide to build their world, what kind of setting there is, what are the countries, what are the systems and rules, both in classes or characters or professions, magic, all that kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So, since it seems that slime is actually noted for world building, at least as is said by lots of the netizens of the world, I've decided to give it a try. And why not? I certainly hope I would enjoy it. If I do, then hey, apparently there's going to be 2 seasons of it, so we're set for the next season as well. But anyways, that's enough rambling on. Let's just see if it's any good or not. Okay, and we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. World War II. Okay. Magic in a real world setting. Damn, did she just get incinerated? Holy shit. Okay. So I assume that was World War II in Tokyo. Bombings. And I'm guessing this is the MC. And since this is a reincarnation story, he's probably gonna die within, I don't know, I give him 3 minutes. 37-year-old. Okay. Alright. Okay, so another one of those old guy virgin MCs. Mikami Satoru.
かわれてるだけだって。先輩もそれくらいにしてくださいよ。すまんな。っていうかなんだ。結婚の相談か何かか。ここじゃなんですから。
Well, he seems to be fairly normal. Doesn't seem to be one of those creeper otaku settings. Alright, so I'm guessing he's gonna die now. Oh. Wait, what? Well, that was so random. Was he trying to assassinate that dude? Who just stabs someone and then runs away? Huh. Or was he chosen to get stabbed and die? Okay. Chisel attack. Okay, son. I'm assuming that there's a reincarnation system in place, and somebody is in charge of monitoring it. In most isekai settings that actually tell you about the reincarnation system, it's normally monitored by gods. Okay. Okay. So currently he has all kinds of resistances. Well, see, about that. Oh, okay. I'm not sure if that reference makes sense in Western terms, but basically there's a saying where if you... Oh no, actually it does, because of 4chan. Okay, never mind. Yeah, Westerners probably do know about that reference. Basically, you turn into a wizard if you remain a virgin at age 30. So is this gonna be the opening? No. Probably not until the next episode. The Storm Dragon. Well, that's some interesting visuals. Okay.
草かな。口は動くか。声は出ない。え、溶けた。おお、体の中に染み渡る。
What? These are some interesting visuals.
俺どうなってるの？なんか変じゃね？普通人間って草溶かせなくね？お、え、やっぱ死んじゃったのかな。田村と沢渡さんどうなった？
ハードディスクは消去されたのか。俺今一体どうなってんの？弾むな。何か弾力がある。体の外側は。ほうほう。なるほどなるほど。なんということでしょう。あんなにかっこよくて男らしかったのに、かっこ自称かっこ閉じ、今ではこんなに優先的な洗練されたスタイルに。ってアホか、認められるか。でもスライムだよな。人間じゃ。
Well, you certainly
どうやら
got
刺されて死んで
a good understanding of your situation rather quickly.
スライムに。それから結構な日にちが経ったと思う。意外なことにこの体結構便利で、食事も睡眠も取らなくて大丈夫のようだ。
Really?
ではなぜ草を食べているかって？
Good question.
だからだよ。意味はないけど何かしてないと不安だからな。って誰に言ってんだ俺。でもこの食べたものどこへ吸収されているんだろう。うんこしてないし。
解。ユニークスキル、捕食者の胃袋に収納されています。
この声確か刺された時にも聞こえた。誰？
解。ユニークスキル大賢者の効果です。能力が定着したため反応を速やかに行うことが可能となりました。
大賢者。スキルって能力のことか？捕食者って
捕食して対象
What is with this 8-bit music?
解析。その対象物のスキルを習得できます。解析が完了すれば擬態化も可能です。
おお。
胃袋は捕食対象を収納し、さらに解析の及ばない有害なものを隔離することも可能。
すごい能力だな、捕食者って。スライムが持ってていいものなのか？まあでもせっかくだから、じゃあ試しに食べた草解析してくれる？
解析が完了しました。ヒポクテソウ、マソの濃厚な場所にしか繁殖しない貴重な薬草。傷薬、回復薬の原材料。
マソ？
マソとはこの世界に干渉し得る特殊なエネルギー。
もっとわかりやすく。
魔物にとっては生命の元になる。
Okay.
生命力。なるほど。それがこの洞窟に満ちて貴重な薬草がたくさん生えてるってことか。で、ヒポクテソウとやらの解析ができて胃袋で収納。つまり体の中で傷薬と回復薬を作って貯めておけるってことか？
その通りです。
なるほど。じゃあ俺はここにあるヒポクテソウを捕食しまくった。それと同時に胃袋の中ではせっせと薬も作成しておく。いざという時に備えて。
He is way too accepting of his situation. So I assume this is another anime thing, and they probably just condensed the entire, I don't know, first few chapters of the first volume into like 5 minutes.
長い年月をかけてマソを取り込んで変異した石。とても貴重なものです。
マジかよ。じゃあ魔鉱石もいけてるぜ。
Oh.
俺は魔鉱石を食いまくった。いっぱいあるから食い放題だ。
What?
もしかして水に落ちた？湖？スライムって浮かないのか？今度こそ死ぬのか？苦しくないな。
You don't need air, right?
俺呼吸してたっけ？してないよな。しかしどうしよう。困ったな。
Just climb out.
そうだ。水を捕食して。
スキル水圧装置を
What?
獲得しました。
あれちょっと早すぎる。
Oh.
壁にぶつかったような気がするけど痛くない。
回痛覚無効を獲得しているため痛みは発生しません。身体損傷率は1割です。
Oh, okay.
固有スキル自己再生が発動しました。
I thought he was like impervious to
ダ
damage.
メージはあるのか。あ、おダメージを受けた部分を修復したのか。
That's handy.
なんて便利な体なんだろう。しかしもっと慎重に行動しないとな。
聞こえるか小さき者よ。聞こえるか小さき者よ。おい、聞こえているだろう。
So is this maybe the entity who reincarnated him? Oh no, it's a dragon.
って言われても口がないから喋れないんだよ。
おい、
もううっさいハゲ。
ほほう、我をハゲ呼ばわりするか。いい度胸ではないか。
Okay.
久方ぶりの客人だと思って下手に出てやったが、どうやら死にたいらしいな。
すいませんすいません。思ったことが伝わるとは思わず、自分口もなく目もない状態でして。
我の姿を見ての発言かと思ったが、目が見えないのか。よし、見えるようにしてやろう。
はあ、
ただし条件
He
が
doesn't have sight?
どうする？
どんな条件ですか。
簡単だ。見えるようになったからといって我に怯えるな。そしてまた話をしに来い。
So he just wants a friend?
お前にとっては良い話だ。
それだけでいいんですか。
うん、実はな、300年前にここに封印されてな。それから暇でどうしようもなく退屈しておったのだ。どうだ？
封印ってのが気になりますけど。わかりました。喜んで。
よかろう。魔力感知というスキルがある。使えるか？
いや、使えないです。
周囲のマスを感知するスキルだ。
マスを感知すると目が見えるようになる。まあやってみるか。お、なんかこれがマソってやつか。お、
エクストラスキル魔力感知を獲得。
そんなさい。
Yeah.
いうかエクストラ。
通常のスキルよりも威力性能が桁違いのスキルです。
おー、いいねエクストラ。
魔力感知を使用しますか？
イエス。
Okay.
見える見える。
So the world has color now?
そうだ。やっぱ俺スライムだ。
どうだ？
あ、はい、できました。ありがとうございました。
Well, that was pretty obvious.
では改めて自己紹介しよう。
はい。
我が名は暴風竜ベルドラ。
暴風竜。
この世に4体のみ存在する竜
Four
種
true
が一体である。
dragons.
おい、約束は覚えているな。
もちろんっすよ。怯えてなどいません。じゃあまた話に来ますんで。
待て！実に珍しい。スライムは本来思考もしない低位モンスター。それなのに自我がある。ユニークか。
ユニークと言いますと。
異常な能力を持つ個体のことだ。
ちょっとよくわからない
Yeah, he's a unique slime.
その自分人間だったんですけど刺されて死んで気がついたらこんな姿になってて。
なるほど、転生者か。
転生、やっぱりスライムに生まれ変わったんですね。
お前、ものすごく稀な生まれ方をしたな。
え、まれ？
異世界からやってくる者はたまにいるが、転生者は我の知る限り初めてだ。魂だけで世界を渡ると普通は耐えられないからな。
Okay.
ってことは転生じゃなくて異世界からこっちに渡ってきた人はいるんですね。
So normal isekai.
異世界人と呼ばれている。そういう者たちは世界を渡る際に特殊な能力を獲得する。
As with every isekai setting.
俺のスキルもそれかな。もしかしたら日本人もいるかも。
Yeah, most of the time they're Japanese.
探して会ってみたいと思います。
なんだ、もう行ってしまうのか。
しょんぼりしてもう少しいようかな。どうせ暇ですし。
そうか、ゆっくりしていくがよい。
はあ、ベルトラさん、さっき封印されてたって言ってましたよね。
よくぞ聞いてくれた。300年前のことだ。ちょっとうっかり町を一つ灰にしちゃってな。
しちゃってなって。
そんな我を討伐に来た者がいた。ちょびっと相手を舐めてたのは間違いない。それでも途中から本気を出したのだがな。負けてしまったな。
ベルドラさんすごい強そうなのに、相手はそんなに強かったのですか？
ああ、強かったよ。加護を受けた人間の勇者と呼ばれる存在だ。
人間の勇者、まるでゲームみたいだな。
ユニークスキル、絶対切断で我を圧倒。 そし
Excellent.
て無限牢獄で我を。
So is she an otherworlder?
その光ってるのが無限牢獄なのか？
ああ、その勇者は自分のことを召喚者だと言っておる。
Yeah, she was summoned here.
召喚者、異世界人とは違うのですか
30人以上の魔法使いで何日もかけて儀式を行い、異世界から呼び出すのだ。
おお、魔法使いがいる世界なのか。ますますゲームっぽい。
強力な兵器としての役割も期待されておる。
兵器？
召喚主のな。召喚者は召喚主に逆らえないように魔法で魂に呪いを刻まれる。
なんじゃそりゃ、ひどい話ですね。
ひどいか。元の世界ではどうだったか知らぬが、この世界では弱肉強食こそが絶対なる真理だ。
そっか。で、その勇者に封印されて、それからずっとここで？
そういうことだ。もう暇で。
俺は37年恋人がいなかっただけで結構寂しかったぞ。
Right.
300年一人。
So are you gonna like eat his prison or something?
よし、じゃあ俺と友達にならないか？
なんだと、スライムの分際で暴風竜と恐れられるこの我と友達だと。
嫌ならいいんだけど。
バカ。
What?
嫌だと言っておらぬか。
A Cinderella jacket?
じゃあどう？
Oh my god.
そうだな。どうしてもというなら
Ugh.
考えてやってもいいんだからね。
ツンデレか。どうしてもだ。決定な。嫌なら絶好。二度と来ない。
仕方ないな。お前の友達になってやるわ。感謝せよ。
素直じゃないね。じゃよろしく。
ああ。
いい年して友達ってちょっと照れるけど、こうして俺は通り魔に刺されて死んで。
Don't tell me this is the first episode.
暴風竜ベルドラと友達になった。なんということもない普通の人生ではもうない。なんということでしょう。こんな人生が待っているとは。いや、スライム生？田村、ハードディスク消去してくれたかな。あいつ消す前に中見なかっただろうな。
Well, that's a good friend.
先輩、安らかにお眠りください。子供が生まれて、男の子だったら悟ってつけます。
And that's the ending. Alright. I'll listen to the ending, and I'll see you guys in just a minute. Alright, so that was the first episode of Tensura, which is the Japanese shortened version of this series. And it's way easier than this whole mouthful. So I'm just gonna call it Tensura from now on, or Slime. And, okay, so that was the first episode. Pretty generic episode so far, pretty generic setting. Nothing, really special stood out to me. So let's just go through the list, right? The beginning, you have to have like at least a few minutes talking about what happened before our main character got reincarnated, right? So, he was stabbed by a guy and died. I still don't quite get like what that whole thing was about. Like, who in the world just randomly stabs somebody and then just runs off? Like, he's not. He's is it a grudge against someone or whatnot? Because there's absolutely no point. He didn't even steal anything or rob anything. He just, you know, he just ran at our protagonist and his two friends and stabbed him and then just left. Like, what was up with that? That made no sense at all. I was thinking maybe that there was it's part of like a conspiracy. So he was actually stabbed on, say, the request of somebody else in the other world, and that was a means of killing him so that he could be reincarnated into this new world. But it doesn't seem like that was the case. Or it could be, but we haven't actually gotten around to see it yet, right? Especially when right after he got stabbed, there was all those kinds of different resistances that he gained. He gained physical resistance, he gained pain immunity, he gained thermal resistance, electrical resistance, all those kinds of resistances, and that was pretty convenient, right? He hadn't even actually died yet, and he already started getting all those different kinds of things. So, which would lead me to believe that he was chosen for this role to be reincarnated. And if that was the case, then the next thing that I'm interested in is who is in charge of this reincarnation system, and does it matter at all? Because there's typically two types, right? It's explained later on that yeah, people in this world, there's summoners who can summon people from other worlds. So, that's that one. So that's one part of the puzzle. But the other part is actually, who is in charge of the reincarnation system? How do they manage it? Are they a god or something? Because typically, in a lot of these kinds of isekai works which deal with reincarnation, the god that is in charge of the system makes an appearance at a later date. It's an important part of the story, important part of the plot point, typically in the later stages of the story. But that didn't happen here, or it might happen in the future, and we're just going through the initial stages of our protagonist right now. So that was that part. Some other world settings, because when you're looking at a RPG, I'm sorry, not an RPG world, a fantasy world, and especially in isekai setting, one of the first things you need to take note of is what are the world systems in place. What kind of professions, what kind of magical abilities, what kind of world are we in? Is this a world where different races live in harmony, different races are at odds? How prevalent is magic? Is it pretty common, or is it fairly unique? All those kinds of different kinds of things. Now, they didn't really explain much. We only got a few, such as magicals. Apparently, magicals are what makes up monsters, and they can make up ore, and I'm assuming that this ore or these herbs can be used for other various artifacts and goods of a magical nature. So, we only got a little bit of this world building part, but I assume that it's going to expand more once we get to a real humanoid companion, or a second humanoid character. It could be human, it could be elves, it could be something else. I don't know, but typically we're probably going to have to wait until this other character comes in before we can start learning a little bit more about this world's systems. So, what else is there? The slime himself, he has some fairly unique abilities, right? He's definitely not your normal slime. He can digest anything at a super fast rate, and he can synthesize things within his own body. So that's fairly convenient, and apparently it acts as a storage as well, so he can... It's basically like an infinite space inside his stomach, so that would definitely come in handy. And what else to talk about? The dragon. What's the dragon's name? I think I wrote it down. The storm dragon... Verudora? I'm just gonna call him Storm Dragon for now. He's an interesting character, right? So he mentioned that there's 4 true dragons in this world, and he's one of them. So apparently he's probably a pretty big shot, right? And he was imprisoned by a summoner from also another world, and so apparently he can't get out. So 2 things about this. The dragon himself, whatever. A tsundere dragon, haha, fine. I get it. It's funny. But I'm more interested in 2 things. One is, so he mentioned that he was imprisoned in an unbreakable barrier. So could our little slime-kun dissolve or eat that barrier? I thought it would happen in this episode if there was some way to do it, but apparently not. It could still happen in the next episode, but I'm just curious to see, since our slime-kun is also from another world, maybe he has powers on par with this other summon. And that brings me to the second point, which is also, I guess, an important piece of context within this world, and that is there are multiple otherworlders, or people who come from other worlds into this world, and they all get some powers. So this is actually, it's not exactly something new. It's actually quite contemporary. In the past, maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, the fashionable thing to do was there only one person who gets reincarnated or sent to a new world from another world. But nowadays, it's all about, there's actually multiple people who are summoned or go into this new world, and both the people themselves, the people who are summoned, and the people in this new world know of these kinds of characters. And they're also typically overpowered in the sense that, because there needs to be a contrived reason for people to actually summon people from another world, right? Otherwise, why not just use people from your own world? It's typically one of 2 things. One, they might have some otherworldly knowledge. Typically, they're summoned into fantasy settings. Modern people are summoned into fantasy settings, so they can take their modern scientific knowledge into that world. The second part would be, which it seems that this anime is, or this series is going for, and that is people who are summoned from other worlds gain innate powers that make them more overpowered from normal people from this world. Which is why our slime got so many different kinds of resistances, because apparently, since he still counts as somebody from another world, he gains all these OP powers. So that's about all the observations I had for this episode, at least up till now. Do I like the setting so far? Like I mentioned at the beginning, it's fairly generic, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to see, since this is such a highly regarded series, let's see what happens in the future. But if I was just judging on this one episode, not really interested. But then again, that's why we have the 3-episode or 4-episode rule, right? You need to watch at least a few episodes before you can have a good feel of what this series is going to be about. So hopefully this anime picks up in the next episode or the few next episodes after that. So anyways, I'm going to go straight into the second episode. So I'll see you guys next time.